Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to read text data into SPSS. If you turn to page 62, this is part of your homework for this week. You're given data about a health club, and this data comes in a file called default.csv. When companies or other people send you data, they're going to send you that data in some format. Now, most often it is not going to be an SPSS format. It's going to be in something else, which means that you have to get the data into SPSS. One of the most common formats that can be read by just about any program is called comma-separated value format, and that's what this CSV is all about. So if we want to bring this into SPSS, let's go over to SPSS for a second. To bring this comma-separated value file in, we're going to go up to File, and then comma-separated values are examples of text files. So we're going to bring it in as a text file. So we're going to say read text file. And on my computer, I happen to have this in a folder called Teach, and then it's in Cases, and then it's, let's see, the fitness case. And you're going to see it up here, but SPSS won't let me click on it. The reason that SPSS won't let me click on it is because I have the wrong format. So if you go down to this format bar, you can change it to all files, and then it will show everything, including this default.csv. And I'm going to open it. And SPSS takes a second here, and it brings us to an import wizard. In this import wizard, we have a preview window down here that shows us what the data look like. And what you're going to see is that there's a first line that looks a little bit different than all the rest. This first line is called a header line, and it gives the variable names. So the first variable is the enrollment date, the second one is the price, the third is the down payment, and so forth. And thereafter, you will see lines of data. Okay, so let's hit continue. Then on this step 2 of 6 of the import wizard, it asks how the variables are arranged. Well, there are two basic formats, delimited and fixed width. We're not going to talk about fixed width this quarter. I'm only going to give you delimited data. So delimited data where the variables are separated by some character such as a comma or a tab. And in this case, it's separated by commas. So each of those commas separate a value. So you see in row 2, we have someone who joined on the month 5, day 1 of 2007. Okay, the price is $999. The down payment was $50. It looks like. So we don't have to touch this first bit. Are the variable names included at the top of your file? Well, yes. Clearly in this window there is a header line, so we're going to indicate yes to that. Excuse me. Now we're going to hit continue, and SPSS on step 3 asks us the first line of the data begins on which line number. Well, it's set to 2 now that we said to use the header line. You can pretty much ignore these next two. How are the cases represented? Well, each line is a case. How many cases do you want to import? We're going to import all of them. Sometimes when you have a very big data set, you might want to read in just the first 1,000 cases to figure out what's going on before you try to bring in the entire data set, but we're not going to worry about that for now. So just leave step 3 alone, hit continue. When it comes to step 4, it asks, what are the delimiters? SPSS guesses that we want to use both the comma and the space as a delimiter, and it guesses wrong. So uncheck space. All we care about is the comma. And that's all we have to do on step 4. Let's hit continue to step 5. Now in step 5, we have the ability to review how each of these variables will be brought in. So let's just click on price for a second. You'll see that price is going to be brought in as a numerical variable, and that makes sense since price is a numerical thing. Likewise with down payment. The only one that we have to touch in this case is the enrollment date. The reason we have to touch enrollment date is that SPSS wants to bring this in as a string. Now a string is just a sequence of alphanumeric characters, and that's not what we want. Instead, we want to be able to bring this in as a date. So if you go over to the data format pull down, you'll see that another option is to bring this in as a date/time variable. Now once you choose this, you have to tell SPSS, well, how are you specifying the dates? And you'll see in this case, they gave it to us as a 4-digit year / the month / the day. So we have to go find that format in this list. So if you scroll down about maybe a third of the way, here is year / month / day, and that's exactly the format that we want. So it's very important that you bring dates in as date variables, because we're going to want to do things like compare dates or compute the distance or the time between two dates, and you have to have the variable as a date to do so. So that's what you have to do for step 5. Hit continue. There is nothing you need to do for step 6, so just hit done. And SPSS has brought this in as a data set. Now, if you look at part 1, it says there should be 24,975 cases. If you want to check that, just pull the scroll bar down to the bottom is probably the simplest way to do that. And you will see that the data end here at 24,975. So it looks like I did this right. Now if we move on to question 2. So question 2 says enter the value labels for payment type, where 1 is book, 3 is statement, 4 is checking EFT, and 5 is credit card EFT. So what does that mean? Well, this payment type variable has some numbers in it. Now we do that for a number of reasons. First off, it takes a whole lot less space to have just a number like 1 in there, as opposed to a book, or worse yet, something like checking EFT. So one reason that companies will specify categorical variables such as the payment type as a number is to save space. A second reason why they do this, probably the more important reason, is that it will keep the data clean. All right, so you might think maybe you want to type in credit card EFT. Well, the problem with doing that is people are not perfect typists, and maybe they spell credit wrong, or maybe some people hyphenate credit card. Maybe some people put EFT lowercase. Well, those are all distinct values, and that creates, you're going to have to standardize all those by making sure that everybody spells credit card the same. So it's much easier just to have a numeric code 5 representing credit card EFT rather than typing in that string credit card EFT. Okay, but who's going to remember what 5 is and 4 is? So SPSS and other statistical software packages enable you to change that. And what we're going to do is go down to the variable view, and this displays information about the variables. And you'll see that right now there are no value labels specified. I'm going to specify some value labels for this payment type variable. So if you click on the values, you're going to see some dots here. Let's click on that. Now this enables us to enter in the decodes. So the value 1 indicates that it's a book. Now if you hit enter or return, or you can click on the add button, it gets added to the box below. Then I think 3 was a statement. The value 4, according to the course packet, is checking EFT. And the value 5 is credit card EFT. Now hit OK. If we go back to the data view, so I'm going to use this tab at the bottom to get to the data view. Now, instead of seeing 1, 3, 4, and 5, we see book and so forth. If this is the first time that you've used SPSS, you might still be seeing numbers. If that's the case, go up to View and toggle the value labels option. So you'll see if I hit value labels, it goes back to numbers. So that means show me the raw data. And if I go back up to View, click on value labels, now it inserts those meaningful names that I typed in. In addition to value labels, I can add variable labels. So instead of PMT type, why don't we say this is the payment type, and this would appear then in the output. Instead of month due, let's call it monthly dues, and so forth. Now, I asked you in part 2 to run a frequency distribution. So to do so, we're going to go up to Analyze, Descriptives, and then if you go down to frequency distribution, frequencies here, we can copy in any number of variables that we like. So let's bring in the payment type variable, and we will then get a frequency distribution. If you want a graph, let's get ourselves a bar chart. To get a bar chart, we're going to click on Charts, and we'll check off bar chart. And then it asks us, do we want frequencies or percentages? Well, let's do percentages. Hit Continue, hit OK, and you will see that SPSS has now run us a frequency distribution and a bar chart. One more thing, we don't want to have to go through all these steps every time of reading in the CSV file and then entering the value labels, perhaps variable labels. So we should save this in SPSS format so that SPSS keeps all of these value labels and so forth. To do that, we're going to go up to File and Save As. Now I'm still in this folder, which is exactly where I want to be. Now you're going to see that SPSS is going to save this as a .sav file, which is something that it can read. So let's call this the default data set. Defaulting customer data set. So I typed in default up there and just hit save. Now I'm going to close this. In fact, I'll close all of SPSS. Do you want to proceed? Yes. And I'm not going to save the output. Now, if I were to come back tomorrow, say, and want to analyze this data set, I don't have to read in that data set again. Instead, I just go over to SPSS, and SPSS takes a while to load. So maybe go make yourself a cup of coffee at this point. And eventually SPSS will load up. And now it says, what would you like to do? Well, let's open up an existing data set, and you'll see that SPSS remembers that we've already, SPSS is complaining. It's kind of silly in that it hides this license renewal thing behind this, where of course I'm not going to see it. Poor software design. Anyway, here we have the data set that we just created, and I can just click on that, or alternatively I could use File Open eventually. And if I hit OK, now it reads this thing in, and notice the value labels are in. If we go to the variable view, we have our variable labels. So you want to save it, read it in once, and then save it and work from that. Okay, that's it for reading a data set into SPSS.